Hey, welcome. We're going to talk about gaslighting today and how it makes you feel crazy. Yeah, so let's just jump in. My name's Lise Colucci, and I am here to help you understand, heal from, and transform your life after being in toxic relationships or being raised by toxic people and narcissists in particular. So hit the thumbs up, hit subscribe. We're going to jump right in. If you need coaching, group coaching, or peer support, check out the info in the main description of every video. There's lots of information there on ways to get different forms of help, as well as tuning in here to watch these live streams. So, gaslighting, fun, right? Let's talk about that. Gaslighting and how it makes you feel crazy and what to do about it. So, gaslighting's no joke, you guys. It is probably one of the most confusing manipulation tactics that creates the most sense of need to engage with it from the person on the receiving end. So if you're being gaslit, the urge to respond to it, to correct the weird, twisted reality, to defend yourself, all of that is really strong. And gaslighting is once a person who is gaslighting you has started down the road of gaslighting, the chances of them stopping and going, "Oh, you're right, I'm telling a lie," or "This isn't the reality, you're right," is pretty slim, especially if they're narcissistic or toxic in any way, right? And gaslighting is there so that they're using it, right? It's a tool to avoid the truth, to avoid accountability, to twist realities to get their way, to control you, and to, anything manipulative. It's a very manipulative tactic. It is complete dismissal of a reality, twisting it into a new reality. And a lot of times, if a narcissist is caught doing something, say they physically harm you, say they are completely abusive and like verbally whatever and get caught, right? And someone sees it. Say there's something they can't deny. There's no wiggle room for deniability. They will use gaslighting to convince you you're crazy so that they can dismiss the thing that happened and make the thing that happened because of you something about you. And it could be the strangest thing that they're saying it is your fault for. And the thing is, from a distance, you're like, well, why would I believe that if it's not happening to you, right? You're going, well, that's so not true. Look at this person, this foolish person saying this thing that makes no sense and blah, 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 right? But when it's happening to you, see, you've invested in the relationship, you've invested in the discussion or argument, you've invested in being right and having your truth be what's in the forefront, right? You don't want to be lied about, you don't want the words twisted, and you've invested in it. You are now part of the dynamic with them. That's what they want. They want to hook you in. And they do that in the beginning by either seeming to listen to you, by engaging in an argument that's very attacking, by um, basically provoking you. Once they've provoked you to the point of distraction from your center and your groundedness, and they've pulled you out of that and they've thrown you into fight flight, right? Because it's tumultuous and it's provoking. So once you're there, then they can often just sit back with calm and ease and twist things around so you get reactive. When you're reactive to the gaslighting, it can turn into all kinds of things. It can turn into shutdown, dissociation, crying, taking the blame. It can turn into reactivity, yelling and screaming, cussing them out, physically going after them, throwing something, things that are out of your nature even. It can turn into reactive abuse, right? Very quickly, very easily, once you've reached your max. And it can get even worse the more you understand about narcissism and the more you understand about manipulation, because you're like, yeah, I'm not taking that anymore. And once you have that stance, it's really important to be able to walk away when the gaslighting starts and hopefully get away from the situation altogether. Because once you've gone past your threshold into reactive abuse, suddenly from the gaslighting, right? Suddenly You are part of the problem. You are engaged in something you wouldn't do, and there is something to apologize for. Well, so say you do something. Say they're screaming and yelling and gaslighting and like, well, I don't know that. What are you talking about? Well, what'd you do that? You're hurting my feelings. And they do that thing where it's all like and jumbly and like hard to, what, and they just keep coming at you with a bizarre point that was never part of the regular conversation, right? So once that happens, and you get reactive and you say, enough. And you scream in their face, or you throw something, or you walk past them and nudge them with your shoulder, whatever it is that you do. Then they make the whole thing about how you're an angry person. And then they'll have 25 reasons why your anger is affecting every relationship of your life, and how your anger and your reactivity, they won't say reactivity, they'll say your undue attacks. You're coming at me out of nowhere. You're pushing and pushing and pushing. That's what I used to hear. You're pushing and pushing and pushing. I'm like, what am I pushing? What am I pushing? The truth? Right. And so once you get to that point, they flip it. And then the gaslighting, there's a whole nother level. And why is that? Because they can't get caught being responsible for this. They need it to be you. Once it's accepted, once you're lost and confused and you're like, I'm sorry, I didn't, oh my gosh, you're right, I shouldn't have done that. Once you go into, or you shut down, or you're confused and you start acting like you feel like you're crazy, right? They have you in the position of ultimate control. They can control everything because, see, they're afraid you're going to tell. They're afraid you're going to go out there and let people know what they're doing. So they've got to make totally sure that you're so messed up in your head that you can't even tell the story straight. And you can't tell the story without telling your part now because you've had a reaction. You see how gaslighting is like terrible, terrible to do to people, and how the need for gray rock, the need for getting away from this, the need for understanding that this is not healthy communication and that you won't engage in it, is super important, and how we need to figure out a way for ourselves, each person individually, how to not be involved in situations where this is going on, right? Because there is no winning. That has to run its course. At that point, once the gaslighting gets that deep and that many layers, it's got to run its course. That narcissist has to feel like they win or you've forgotten. If they feel like you've forgotten, then slowly, slowly, their guard will be dropped just this much. So they're not always ready for the pounce to make you feel crazy again. If they think you're going to tell, if they think you're going to leak their information about the truth of them, if they think that you're going to tell them and make them discuss what actually happened, they're going to keep going. And see, this is a problem because people, when they can't leave narcissistic situations and when they can't, get away from these people, low contact, whatever reason, or even full contact, right? When they can't get away, they think, you as a survivor might think, well, I need to reconcile this. We need to reconcile this so we can move forward with the relationship. We need some resolution. We need things to be smoothed out. We need understanding, right? But if you're continually pushing the truth at a narcissist who needs you to accept and align with their lies, which is the gaslighting, you're going to end up in a more escalated, dramatic thing. Or they'll take that, they'll shut down. Sometimes they'll be like a covert narcissist. Sometimes they'll be like, fine, you're right. I accept my part. Not a real apology, but they'll do that thing. So you go, oh, they're thinking, they're trying. And you leave it at that because, oh my gosh, you got that much, right? Well, they'll use this and throw it at you later. They will weaponize it and throw it back at you. They'll say, you are always so reactive. You are always, because if you say something to them like, I just get reactive to the way you confuse me. The way when we argue, you're always blah, 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 right? I just get reactive. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be reactive. They'll later on say, oh, you're so reactive. Well, that's why we can't have conversations, because I try to tell you something and you go straight into reaction. So, right? There's no point. In fact, it's detrimental to try and smooth things over in a healthy way with a narcissist, because they will take anything healthy you're trying to throw into that and weaponize it. All right. Hey, Darlene and James and Teddy Bear. And I see me. I haven't seen you in a while. I see me. Okay, what are we saying? You don't feel nothing. You lose precious time while they lose future work and slowly cut themselves with useless methods. Well, yeah, yeah. And James is saying gaslighting is a dark dance. Oh, isn't it? Where the truth is twisted, emotions are invalidated. Truth is twisted, emotions are invalidated, and sanity is questioned. Absolutely. Breaking free from its grasp by embracing your inner strength and trusting your instincts. Yeah, we're going to talk about that, the breaking free from it. So that's like one example that I gave of gaslighting. I see me saying I yell at him every day out of communication frustration. 100%. Because how can you not see, once you're in that cycle of reactive abuse or reactivity, where you're doing things you would not normally do in a healthy relationship, and you know darn well it's not healthy to yell at people, right? Of course you do. But what else are you going to do? Because they're not listening. And do they listen to the yelling? Maybe sometimes, or at least it gets the frustration out, or you know what? Fight fire with fire, right? You start feeling like that. And it leaves you feeling like, am I the bad one? Am I the wrong one? I did do that thing. Does that make me bad? Does that make me wrong? And even if you think, no, I'm not wrong, because of the way they twist things, that little trace of doubt will always be there about your own worth in this and your own value in this, right? So, yeah, gaslighting is, I mean, I feel like if narcissists would just quit gaslighting, things could be just so much simpler. It is probably, at least for me, I mean, there's a lot of terrible things they do, but see, they do this when things are needed most, when there is the most vital need for healthy communication in the relationship or friendship or parenting or whatever it is, workplace, it doesn't matter, with the dynamic between two people or more. They do this when it is the most important that transparency and honesty and availability to the other person is necessary. When there's tension, when there's question, when there's room for connection through discussion, right? Like when a normal, healthy relationship would begin to grow, they stunt it right there with the gaslighting. And the narcissistic person, like they just can't have those deep connections or even like surface connections, really, right? They can't get past their own ego and their interpretation that ego is having in order to protect itself from whatever it thinks is going to come after it. Well, we know what's going to come after it. Truth, the other person having an actual life and mattering, yeah. Okay. So what are some other examples, you guys, of gaslighting where it makes you feel crazy? Like I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head. That was one example that I gave, but it could be really anything, right? I mean, it's really anything where you are having, I mean, this is the thing about it. I've been around a lot of covert narcissists. Okay. And so when you're with covert narcissists or around covert narcissists and they are gaslighting you, it comes at the strangest time over the most benign disagreements. And everything turns into a pouting match and a need to dominate. Does that make sense? Like there is a need for them to dominate the energy, for them to dominate the whole thing and twist it into something. Even people who are covert narcissists who are not necessarily the yelling, screaming type, they're more like happy-go-lucky in the rest of their life where people think they're nice guys or whatever. There's this need to dominate and control. And when it doesn't happen instantaneously, even when it does happen, they have to push into it with this gaslighting and make sure that your reality is invalidated. It stinks. Okay. It's terrible to live with. And yeah. So what are some things you can do when someone's gaslighting you like that? I mean, the truth is, if you see this over and over as a pattern, it's time to reevaluate this relationship, friendship, or whatever it is. It's time to evaluate what you want for your life and the types of interactions you want with others. And get really clear with yourself on how you're going to move forward with that. Is this time for you to leave? Is this time for you to back way off to low contact? Is this time to set some boundaries about the types of things you'll communicate about? Are you going to stay? And if so, what's the relationship going to look like? Because this can't keep going on, right? How are you going to, obviously, you can't engage in it. You can't, once someone starts gaslighting, like I said, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep gaslighting until you're in a state of befuddlement, confusion, submission, um, reactivity, whatever it is. They have to win. Okay. There's a competition thing that happens at that point, and they have to win. So unfortunately, yelling at them every day isn't going to help you because it's not going to stop them. The best suggestion I have here is learn to gray rock really, really well if you can't get out of the situation, and you learn to, you know, find your truth inside yourself and really not worry what their opinion is. If you can get to a place where you look at any other human being and you think that's an interesting point of view, not in a sarcastic way, but truly, oh, you think really different. That's an interesting point of view without any reaction, knowing that your point of view is equally interesting to other people, right? Like you don't have to win. They don't have to win. And I get it. They're gaslighting over stuff that's actually hurtful. And so, or they're lying about you, or their interesting point of view might be you just cheated on me when you have not left the house and no one's been around, right? So, or their interesting point of view might be, it could be anything that isn't true. And so, of course, the feeling of defending yourself, but the reality is that they're provoking you. Okay. They're provoking things. And so you have to see it for what it is. It is manipulation. Once it starts, manipulation, game on. Do you want to play? And that's how I've done it, is when I've had to be around toxic people who gaslight me. I think in my head, oh, manipulation, game on. Do I want to play? And usually it's like, no, I'm halfway into it, right? Already defending, already provoked. And then it's like, oh yeah, gray rock. Oh yeah, interesting point of view. Wow, listen to them. I don't say that. If you say wow to a narcissist, they're going to wow, don't wow me, So it's about learning, just like when a toddler's having a tantrum, how you don't engage in it. You don't scream and yell at them for having a tantrum. You kind of either walk away or take their hand and lead them somewhere they can tantrum safely, or you manage it through not engaging with the tantrum itself. You let the child find their balance. Well, these are like emotional children. Should you have to do this with another adult? Absolutely not, right? And is it your responsibility? Absolutely not. However, if you can't leave or you don't wish to leave, there's a responsibility you have for yourself, to yourself, on how you are going to conduct your life, regardless of what that other toxic moron is doing. Okay, sorry, I don't usually name call, but gaslighting to me is the most childish form of communication, period. It is, I told you so. I know you are, but what am I? Oh, look, there, it's you. You did it. Like, oh, are you kidding me? Here we go. Are you kidding me? Where did the adult I was talking to go? Where did the person who seems to have logic go? How can you have logic and talk like this? Right? A lot of narcissists are pretty bright. Some of them are not at all. And some of them are pretty bright. And you're thinking, if you're so smart, you're so clever that you can run a business and you can do this and you can do that, but you can't have a conversation about leaving the toilet seat up, or a conversation about not wanting to be late to a party together. Like, why is that the thing that makes you have to have an absolute meltdown and turn everything into a giant, huge, right? Okay. Enough of the tirade here. Okay. Hey, Angela. So Darlene's saying the time I was gaslit that stands out the most was when we were arguing because narcolepsy prevents me from doing as much as I want. Oh my gosh, how dare you have any limitations that affect their life? Because it's about them, right? Not you and how it affects your life. He said he wanted to leave me and asked if he would and I asked if he would leave if I was in a wheelchair, and he said yes. A few days later, I told him how much that hurt, and he denied saying it. Of course he did, even after the kids said they remembered it. Of course he did. And see, and if that had turned into an argument, he could have, and I don't know him, but he could have then s- made it so, or maybe the next time, like he got sick or something happened, twisted the reality so you're the one who's not sympathetic to him. See, they take the gaslighting and they build on it. If you bite and you react, it's like they know there's a button. Ah, there's a topic. And they store it in their brains. And then they use it later. Like I said, they weaponize it to turn it into something else to throw more gaslighting on top of the gaslighting on top of the gaslighting. It's not one thing. If it was one thing, who cares? If he did that and that was it, okay, bad day, what a jerk, whatever, right? Like, who cares? But it's not just one thing. It's that on top of more gaslighting, on top of more gaslighting, on top of more gaslighting. Yeah. Okay. Um, what are we saying here? My ex had me convinced I was going to end up in a mental institution very soon. Oh, that's it. See, they make you feel crazy. They make you say things because they don't make you. Okay, here's the thing. Gaslighting is a manipulation that affects the other person's mind because it is so far from the truth and so twisted about your truth. So they're taking your truth and your reality, twisting it up. Of course, anyone would have a reaction to that if they were just thrown into it, right? They would know, no one would sit there and go, "Oh yeah, that's how it was." Okay. No, they'd say, "Wait, no, no, that's not the reality, right? You did say that. We all remember. We all heard it. So how are you, it's that plus what was I going to say? It's not just that they I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? I did this every time. It's the twisting of that with the complexity of it and the fact that we react to it. Oh, that's right, the crazy. So you react to it and you say, "No, that's not what happened. This is what happened." And then they lie and they twist and they lie and they twist to the point where you're like, "I don't even care," right? And or you're like, "Oh my gosh," and and you go into something. So if somebody just randomly walked in the room and found you in the puddle that you are after a massive gaslighting episode, what would that person think of you? Just like imagine a scene where you're on the play is on stage, screen opens, person on a puddle on floor in the state you get in after you've been massively gaslit. And that's the only thing the person sees when they walk in. That person needs some mental help. That person needs some intervention. That person needs something. They're not okay. Right? You don't see, "Oh my gosh, that person was gaslit so bad. Oh, poor baby, they're knocked to the ground. They're knocked to the ground emotionally. Let's help them get back up and see the truth. Let's validate them." You don't see that. You see, and so that's what they're banking on. So if they can stockpile information about how you get crazy, well, then they can very calmly in their detached narcissistic way tell other people about all the crazy stuff you did without any emotional reaction. Now, when we're talking about them, we're like, "Oh my gosh." And then they did this. I can't even believe it. How can people act like that? We're saying it with all this emotion, which makes us look like we're making it up. Do you get what I'm saying here? This is what they're banking on. This is what they are doing to twist realities and to make sure that that's cemented into everybody else's reality and truth. So, again, we have to gray rock it. I mean, you can't even yellow rock this stuff. You have to gray rock it. There's no engaging with it. You can engage very coolly. That isn't how it happened. You can say it's not going to help. Best thing is just to let it wind its way all the way up, all the way back down without letting it in. Remembering that person's in a gaslighting fit right now. That person's having their strange, twisted point of view thrown at me. Okay. It's not my problem. Let them. Just like a child having a tantrum, not your problem, right? You're there to support the child. You're not there to support the narcissist. You're there to support yourself in that case because they're not a child. But anyway, okay. He makes these affirmative statements about what we are going to do, and it's not good. And so I scream at him, makes me crazy. You see? And that's the engaging. I can watch, I mean, guaranteed, I could listen to a conversation between the two of you, and I can see where the hook is for you. I can see where he hooks you in. You probably can too. So try to look from the observer point of view when it's happening. Where's my hook? There it is. That emotion right there. When he triggers that emotion right there, my instinct is to engage, so do something different. Change the way you behave. Don't react to instinct, react with logic, with calm. Understand that's his problem, not yours. And step out of the situation as best you can. Don't engage in it, right? Or pretend to argue so it winds up and then walk away. We can't let it in. That's the problem. This is bullying, and it's a twisted reality. It's not truth. Okay? So don't argue with something that's a lie. All right. Excuse my sniffles. I've got hay fever really bad. Let's see. He kept saying he kept calling me crazy, says Angela, and lost at the final discard. I said, whatever, gray rocking. Picture them in a straitjacket. Exactly. Just picture them. I used to picture like how the child responses to not getting their way. You know, like a child that's never taught that we don't always get our way, like that. I'd just picture that, and I'd be like, I don't engage with that, even in children. I say to children, I know it's frustrating when we can't get our way, isn't it? Right? Frustrating. What does frustration feel like? How's that for you? That's hard. How can we be frustrated in a healthy way? It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to not get your way. It's okay if, you know what I mean? That's how I talk to children. With a narcissist, they're not a child. They're an adult. They're responsible for their own stuff. They won't ever take responsibility. And the whole point of it is they use relationships like suitcases they can dump their stuff into. And you can quote me. But that's for real. They use relationships like bags and suitcases they can emotionally dump into so that we'll carry their burdens, and we'll carry their traumas, and we'll carry their frustrations and their bad feelings about themselves, and we'll process it in our psyche and our brains in our lives, and then hand back to them a shiny mirror of who they are. Aren't you wonderful? You're amazing, right? So, yeah. Okay. Anything else, you guys, about gaslighting or similar? I'm going to keep this kind of short today. I have a call at 3. So, um, yeah. I guess it's important when I don't guess, I know it's important when you are living with this to find places to get validation for your experience, for the situations that happen. I cannot tell you how many calls I have taken with people coaching where I have listened to stories of gaslighting for the entire call. That's an hour of gaslighting stories. And it only is the tip of the iceberg for what they've experienced. But by the end of it, the validation, oh my gosh, I wasn't crazy. Okay. You know, and it's not like obviously that's a little bit different of it because it's not like so interactive of a call, but they're necessary sometimes. And so really peer support, group coaching, things like that can help you get it out. Get the validation you need. Start seeing ways to do it differently for your life. Start making different choices in your life. Start recognizing you have the power to make choice, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. And building a life where you do get to make choice. Even if you can't get away from them, there's still choice to engage. Okay. And I get that it doesn't feel like it. There is, because right now you're operating from engagement. How do you disengage from engagement? You can't. You have to have a different mindset about the whole relationship. Okay. Darlene says, I just wish I knew about narcissism and gaslighting when I was married. Right? I knew I was unhappy, but I had no idea I was being abused. And but I'm forever thankful to the friend who helped me see and get out. Oh yeah. I can remember being in like having anxiety attacks, bad panic, right? And of which you guys have maybe a couple situations where they come back now. But it was daily. Okay. And now, I don't know, a couple times a year. for a few minutes in specific situations that are linked to trauma. Like, in other words, it's a trigger, right? And only a trigger. This was that generalized panic that just comes out of nowhere, right? And you're like, but everything's fine. You know why? Because everything's not fine. You're living in a toxic situation and your nervous system is tired and it's wound up and it's full of all of this, of the gaslighting, right? And so, yeah, you're smart and you go, "Oh my gosh, life isn't safe," and you go into panic. So anyway, I was at a anxiety clinic and I learned a lot there, which I share a lot of stuff I learned there here with you guys a lot. But she said, "Okay, define your work life, define your life with your children, define your past. Let's talk like brief. Give me little scenarios about each chunk." And she says, "Do you have a relationship?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Talk about that." I swear to you, not one paragraph in, she writes on the board, classic narcissist slash codependent relationship. And she didn't say a word. And she's like, "Okay, that's enough. Tell me about that." She was just taking an inventory, right? And I'm like, wait. Go back there. What? I, I knew what a narcissist was, but I didn't know. Well, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know how covert sociopathic people behaved. And I didn't understand the depth that I do now. This was a long time ago, right? And I got it, but I didn't get how widespread it is and how it can look different and how that wasn't me. It really wasn't. And how the anxiety never was me. The anxiety was my smart reaction to dangerous life because life wasn't safe. Okay, so all right. My youngest also has panic attacks, says Darlene, so I understand. Interesting that she is the only one who hasn't gone no contact with the ex. Well, you can relay my story and see if it helps her. It was astounding. She says, "Oh, yeah, classic." I'm like, "Well, which one am I?" And she started giggling. And I'm like, "What? Am I the bad one?" She's like, "Well, let's not use good and bad. Let's just say two different ways of thinking. And you clearly have a lot of empathy. So which one do you think you are?" Oh. And she's like, "Yeah, you can work on that codependency and it'll help a lot of this because that narcissistic person won't tolerate it. They'll walk away." And I'm like, "Interesting. Okay." And that's when I started digging in. All right. So yeah, it's real. This stuff affects you. It can make you feel crazy. It can make you behave crazy. Let's go back to that story of puddle on the ground after or wherever you are, screaming up in the air, wherever you go when you have been gaslit really a lot and you get reactive or you get reactive in one way or another. Okay. And your reactions are over the top compared to how you would react with a not toxic situation, right? Agreed? Okay. So that's the tool they're going to use to prove you're crazy. It's okay. Laugh at it. Okay. Laugh at the fact that they're doing that. It's sort of like someone falling down and skinning their knee, and the proof is that they have a scab on their knee. And so someone's trying to prove you're clumsy and they keep pointing at your knee. And you're like, "Yeah, I tripped on something on the ground and fell." It could happen to anyone, right? But they are, and something that someone placed there, I didn't see it, whatever, right? It's not because you're crazy. It's because the situation happened and you fell into it. Look at it like what it really is. See the truth of the gaslighting, not the truth of that they're trying to tell you about yourself. You really have to get to know yourself. So, with everything I've been talking about here lately with healing, let's come back to that for a second. You guys say you're being gaslit. You can't get out of the situation. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. It could be a bank teller or a store clerk or whatever gaslighting you about something going on in the line. It could be anything and you can't get away from it because you've got to finish the transaction. You can yell and scream. You can say, "Don't gaslight me," which I've done. "I will not be gaslit. Don't do that." I've done that on the phone with Comcast. "I will not be gaslit." You complain about something and they're like, "Is there anything else I can do for you today?" You're like, "Well, yeah, you can answer my question." "Anything else I can do for you today?" So you're like, "Stop gaslighting me. Reality is there's a problem. Fix it." Yeah. So in that case, in any case, that was a silly one, but for real, actually, it was a very frustrating one. But so you're in a situation you can't get out of, or at least in that moment. Find grounding in your body, you guys. Come back to what we've been talking about. Find something, a place in your body. It's going to be hard because you're already in fight flight. Okay. So you don't want to fight the fight flight, right? You're going to let it be there. Let it be there. Recognize it. Oh, dang it. They got me here again. Okay. Okay. So then start talking to your mind. You're in fight flight. You're in fight flight. Don't react from fight flight. Let's just feel the discomfort for a minute. Where is it? Oh my gosh, I feel like a volcano. That's what I feel like. A volcano. I'm going to erupt, right? Oh, everything, my heart, everything's pumping and it's just blah, right? Feel it. It's okay. All right. It's okay because what you're trying to do is step back into yourself and disengage from the nonsense. Okay. Once you're in touch with yourself, you can say, okay, we're going to make a different choice. It's going to be challenging. That's okay. We're not going to engage. I am not going to engage. I'm going to watch. I'm going to nod. I'm going to say minimal words and do the gray rock thing, however that looks for me. Okay. It's not working. There's still gaslighting. Guess what? It's not meant to work. What it's meant to do is help you disengage. That's working. Is it working? Yeah, actually, I don't feel the need to argue. They're so freaking wrong that there's no point in telling them they're right. They need to be right. Whatever. Let them. And as you disengage, recognize, oh, that there's an ounce of relaxation from that disengagement, just an ounce. Hold that for a second. Take a breath. Get away from the gaslighting as fast as you can, right? Excuse yourself. Oh my gosh, I have to use the bathroom. Hang on, let me do this and we'll talk in a second. Whatever you can do just to get away from it. If you're on the phone, just be like, I got to call you back. Okay, someone just came to the door. Click, whatever. Disengage completely, right? And then calm yourself down. Come back into your body. Tell your emotions. Give them all the validation that they need. As if I'm telling you, okay? As if you're telling me and I'm repeating it to you, or you're telling a friend and they're repeating back to you the truth of what had happened. That person just totally gaslit you. Their reality is so twisted because they're trying to manipulate you. That hurts to be manipulated. It hurts to be told that, you know, that I would leave you for these situations and then have it lied about. Oh my gosh. And then yeah, mind, you remember all that. You've seen this before, haven't you? Take some breaths and get into yourself a little bit. Relax, okay? And then go do something away from that toxic person. Let them calm down, let them spin, and let them come back and pretend nothing happened. Don't re-engage in it. Don't bring it back up. There is no point in discussions with a narcissist, you guys. There's none. No point. You're never going to have a meaningful discussion that ends well. Okay? They need it to end their way. This is what I mean. If we have to stay in these things, we have to learn that it isn't a healthy relationship. Not reciprocal. It is transactional and it is about manipulating and manipulating. And if you're manipulating towards a calmer state, then so be it. But no, that's what's happening. You're trying to dominate and control as much as they are for your own good, for the safety of yourself, right? You can't have, cool, nice interaction. It won't happen because they're always needing to. There's no, I could only be better if only it could be blah, blah, blah. If only I didn't do this, they wouldn't do that. It's my fault. Not true. This is their means of communicating. Okay. This is their means of argument, their means of discussion, their means of power. Okay. So gaslighting is a huge, I mean, we talk about it like blah, 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 gaslighting, la, 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 right? But it is really a deeply painful, toxic thing, should be illegal type of situation, right? Like it really should be seen for the manipulation that it is when it is repeated and when it is the main source of a relationship style. And but it isn't. And so we have to create the barrier in our own life, right? To protect ourselves, not even protect ourselves, to have it not affect you. Okay. All right. I was pushed, then told I tripped. Oh yeah. You could push them, like, just in reaction, not push, shove, but, like, walk into them, or I can remember walking past a narcissist to try and get out the door and being told I pushed them, and they did this whole dramatic fall back thing, and I'm like, "Whoa," that was like Wonder Woman. All I had to do is walk in, pow, and boom, they fly backwards. What power, right? And then have them push back, hold me down, stuff like that, and say, "I had to stop you from hurting me. Look what you made me do." If that's not gaslighting, I don't know what is, right? So, yeah, this is what they do. You can't argue. If you say, "Oh my gosh, you just this to me, you hurt me," they'll say, "I hate the fact that you made me hurt you. I hate that you drove me to that." No winning. Yep. Uh-huh. And it's not even that we need to win. There's no truth. There's no truth. You can say to yourself, "Truth, did that happen?" No. Like, you feel it, right? And if you even if it's something you don't want to admit, like, say you bumped him with your shoulder, you did kinda shove into him. Truth, did I do that? Oh, yeah. Okay, yep, I did do that. Doesn't feel good, but I did it. I can feel that truth, right? In that situation I'm describing, I did walk too close to somebody who's angry. But I mean, seriously, no contact. No, it was just a storming out the door thing, right? Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's James is saying, "My narcissist said I needed therapy. I got therapy and went no contact 2 months ago." Yes. Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I think it's brilliant. You're darn right. I do need therapy to deal with leaving you. That's Yep. Oh, yeah. Mhm. Okay. Darlene saying, "My dad did the 'you made me do it' thing on my mom all the time." Mm, bully, right? Toxic bully. Ah, you guys. Okay. So I try not to do too many of these kinds of live streams because they're not very uplifting, but they're important. And so if you're going through gaslighting like this and you're questioning your sanity, please talk to someone that has been in situations around people who gaslight. Okay. Even if it's just once, even if it's brief or through text, whatever, get some validation for the experience that you had. And I mean, I know, like, personally, having talked to people, if I hear a situation that does not sound like gaslighting, it sounds like two people fighting, I will flat out say, "That sounds like two people fighting. Tell me more. Tell me more." Sometimes people protect the truth too. Like, they don't want to tell the truth because they feel so guilty, but you can hear it, right? You can hear, "Oh my gosh, that's gaslighting." I think that's only happened once where I'm like, I can't hear the gaslighting once in 6.5 years of coaching where I was like, I don't hear it. Right. And I had to very diplomatically say, tell me more stories, show me more examples, tell me more stories. Right. And it was, toxic, but it was a different level. And that's why. But most of the time, I mean, almost every time, this is something that someone can help you validate your own experience, understand what's actually happening. So don't let yourself feel alone, trapped, or crazy. Peer support even helps with this. Okay. So go out and seek this help because you're locked in your own box of feeling insane, right? And scary. And you don't want someone to question you or doubt you or any of that. So yeah, okay. Um, oh good. I'm glad it's healing because you're heard in here. Excellent. Um, All right. Did I miss anybody? Anything that they said? If I did, I apologize. You're always welcome to repeat if I miss because I go through the very quickly through here. Okay. All right, you guys. I would head out and I will see you guys later this week. I know I said I would do one on when family members become flying monkeys and your daughter or your son, young adults that are being used to triangulate with the narcissistic person. We'll talk about that this week too. And I'm not sure what else, but okay. I will see you guys probably tomorrow or Friday. Yeah. Take care. Bye bye. You're welcome.